Okay, so this business of John Fury saying that his son Tyson's camp, his training setup, is in decline. He'd previously been quoted as saying that his son was in decline as a fighter, but John Fury seemed to be very irritated about that. I don't know whether he actually said it that way or meant it that way or not, but that's the way it was presented. That might have got him in hot water with his son, who knows? But either way, he's clarified or perhaps changed his position. Now he's saying that it's Tyson's team and his camp that's in decline. And if what he saw in camp is still the situation now, there's a very real chance that he could lose to Alexander Usyk. This is what John Fury's saying. Now, I've been pointing out for years that John Fury is a bit of a control freak. When he went to prison, his brother Peter took over the training duties for Tyson. And most people would agree that he did a great job, not only in getting Tyson prepared for fights, but he also had a calming and maturing influence on him outside of the ring to some extent. When John came out of prison, problems started arising. All of a sudden, there grew a rift between Tyson and his uncle Peter and also his promoter, Mick Hennessy, who he ditched. And this was a guy who, earlier on in Tyson's career, he said he would never leave. Tyson had his well-documented hiatus from the ring. When he came back, he was with Ben Davison. Ben Davison was, at first, apparently ostensibly embraced by John Fury, but it didn't take long for John Fury to turn on him as well. I forgot to mention John Fury turned on his own brother Peter. Why? We can only speculate, but he did turn on him. Then he turned on Ben Davison and he started speaking out publicly, questioning Ben Davison's ability as a trainer to train this level of fighter. Ben Davison and Tyson obviously parted company. Tyson then hooked up with Sugar Hill Stewart. Again, John Fury was praising him for a little while, but it didn't take long for him to start openly criticizing Sugar Hill Stewart as well. John Fury is pushing this narrative that ever since he hooked up with Sugar Hill Stewart, his performances have been on the decline. But I guess he forgets about the second fight that Tyson had with Deontay Wilder. Many would argue that that was a career best performance, and that was under the tutelage of Sugar Hill Stewart, as was his performance against Dillian Whyte, another great performance. So you can't just point out the bad performances and ignore the good. But this is what John Fury's doing. Tyson is just a human being at the end of the day. And he's always been someone that struggles with his weight, that struggles with discipline, that struggles sometimes to stay focused. So how much of this erratic form can be blamed on the trainer? Maybe it doesn't matter who trained or who trains Tyson. He would always be erratic to some extent. But John Fury clearly wants that position as Tyson Fury's coach. He's pretty much admitted it in several videos over the past year or so. He thinks he can do a better job. He did train Tyson, I guess, a little bit in the amateurs and perhaps a little bit early on in his pro career. But there's a reason that Tyson hasn't brought him back on since to be the main coach. He's had every opportunity to have his dad John in his corner, but he hasn't taken it. He must have good reasons for not doing so, surely, because John is a boxing man. He was a professional himself. He's been around the game for decades. He's very knowledgeable, John Fury, about boxing. But I have to imagine there's something about John's character that doesn't sit well with his son Tyson as far as employing him as his coach. Is he too disruptive in camp? Is he too egotistical? Does he not get along well enough with other members of the team? Is he too much of a control freak? Now, as far as these latest comments from John Fury, some people have speculated that it's just kidology from Team Fury, making it seem like there's issues in camp when there actually isn't, to try and lull Alexander Usyk into a full sense of security. You know how the Furies like their mind games. And I guess it's a possibility, but when taken in context of everything I've just mentioned, it's perhaps more probable that it's just John Fury desperately wanting the limelight, being upset with his son because he can't get the limelight for this, the biggest fight of his boxing career. Has John Fury been banned from the gym by his son? That's what I'm wondering. Because if he has, that might explain this outburst. You know, John Fury talks about Sugar Hill being a Judas character because he admitted that just under a year ago, he wasn't in the UK to train Tyson for the Usyk fight. He let the cat out of the bag, so to speak, told the truth. John Fury said that was a sackable offense. So he's very good at pointing the finger at other members of the team. But his own behavior right now isn't exactly going to be good for Tyson's mindset, is it? Trying to sow these seeds of doubt in the camp. For what reason? Just because maybe he's not in the camp or he doesn't have control as the head trainer? It's very selfish. If you've got grievances, you speak behind the scenes. Making it public can make it more stressful for everybody involved. And here's the thing. If Tyson Fury beats Alexander Usyk, that's going to leave John Fury without a leg to stand on. Now, if the fight is competitive, close, or controversial, then perhaps John Fury will say, well, if he had me in the corner, he would have won convincingly. But if Tyson Fury wins hands down, as convincingly as can be, what's John Fury going to say then? I trust Tyson's judgment in terms of who he picks to train him a lot more than I trust John Fury's judgment. John Fury's narcissism is pretty extreme. I mean, it's megalomania. And there's a lot of narcissism in boxing among fighters, among promoters, and so on. With fighters, I don't want to say it's absolutely necessary to be somewhat narcissistic, but it's a personality trait which is common among fighters because in order to be successful in this game, you have to be selfish, you have to be self-absorbed to some extent. You have to have a big ego and think very highly of yourself as a fighter. You have to have a very strong will because other fighters with very strong wills are seeking to impose themselves upon you. So Tyson himself is definitely narcissistic to some extent, but his narcissism pales in comparison to his dad, John. If only John had the boxing ability to match his level of narcissism, he might have been the greatest heavyweight of all time. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section below. John Fury saying that his son Tyson's camp is in the decline. Do you agree with him? Do you think that Sugar Hill Stewart is not the trainer for Tyson? Or do you think that John Fury is being very selective with the fights and the performances he talks about? Because obviously he's thinking about the third Wilder fight and the Ngannou fight. He's ignoring the second Wilder fight and the Dillian Whyte fight, which were fantastic performances. The trilogy fight with Chisora was neither here nor there. At 35 years of age, yo-yoing up and down in weight, problems with his knees and his joints and all this kind of stuff, apparently, which you would expect for such an enormous man, going out there doing road work when he's carrying 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds of fat on his body. Tyson doesn't have a robust skeleton like, let's say, a Joe Joyce, who's really naturally muscular and thick set like a rugby player. Tyson's skeleton is actually kind of slim naturally. The extra weight he carries is mostly fat. Those joints were not designed to carry all that bulk. Doesn't have that kind of robust skeleton to do so. So it's going to take its toll, in which case it doesn't matter who trains him. His body is going to deteriorate, and therefore eventually his performances are going to deteriorate. It's inevitable. Can't blame it all on a trainer. Father Time is undefeated. Leave your comments below.